After being bitten by a radioactive bird, somewhat mannered, Tuthill was possessed to become Kineas, the Skydude. Episode number 136. Going to be following the route of Alexander the Great. We're in Macedonia, and we're going to be traveling down the area called Hellespont. Well, it was in antiquity. Man, names change a lot, I have learned. So we're going to be crossing the Hellespont, or whatever they call it today, where Alexander did. And we're going to head over to where Troy is at, the legendary city of Troy. Then we're going to head over to the area where the very, very first battle with the Persians took place, at GRANICUS. I see the automatic scene switchers working just fine. Happy Monday to you. I hope everything is going good for you. Thanks for tuning in. Get yourself a cup of coffee and relax. A cup of tea, cup of anything, and settle in. Now, let me go ahead and say right away, I might be doing 2, sometimes maybe even 3 shows in a day. I didn't realize that Alexander the Great went everywhere. So he's traveling more miles than I expected. I'm like, boy, some of these flights are going to take a while, and I can only imagine how long it took on foot. And then he went here and there and other places that we're not even going to be going. The point is, with that, some of these streams might have to go really long. Some of these flights might be really long. Okay. I spent all weekend trying to learn as much as I could and go in and download all the maps first and do as much research as I could so I don't sound like a complete and total idiot. All right, we're also where we're at in the world. Like I said, we're the tail of Macedonia on the eastern side. There we are. Okay. So Alexander the Great, he had already done a whole bunch of stuff. He's 20 years old, and his father's died, and he's taken over. But prior to this, he has done a lot of fighting in Greece, all over through this area, and over here into Greece, and yada yada yada. So he's already got a bunch of battles under his belt, but now he's going to take it to the Persians, or the Achaemenid Persians, as they're known as, is that time. All right, so I thought in the weeks prior to us flying down here that he crossed over here, and he probably did have armies possibly cross over here around Istanbul, but there was a shortcut right here called the Hellespont. So he brought all of his armies and his fleet over to here, and they had to undertake a crossing of this huge river. Sometimes I'm hearing that he commandeered every single thing that could float in the area, and he also had his soldiers fill their tents with hay and float themselves over that way. So he's moving about 100,000 or more troops at the moment, and that's probably a conservative number. All right, anyway, all of his troops started crossing here around Gallipoli and through here, and this area goes back to ancient times too. The Greeks had already conquered all of this, and this was already previously Greek territory during the Peloponnesian Wars. So Alexander kept going, and he crossed over here. And he crossed this body of water here, stuck a spear into the ground, and declared everything his once they got here. And then he went to Troy. Now, the harbor and everything is down in here. And Troy proper, or at least where they tell us it's supposed to be, is right here. But I believe it was everything because Troy controlled everything at one point. So I think the city itself is all of this in antiquity. It doesn't look like there's anything there now, which blows my mind. All right, there's only one airport in the area, so we can't really can't make a whole lot of money. But what we can do is, since we're going to travel this way, all right, we'll cross over here where his troops did, then we'll cut back and come over where he came down. But anyway, this airport here at LTBH, they're buying fuel. I tried looking for jobs that would take us this way and nothing came up. So we have to resort to doing market trading. But in the market here, in NEOFLY, I pulled up LBTH, and if we stock up on fuel here at this airport, LTFL, we'll make plus $593 for every unit sold. That's really darn good. I've checked out the other markets around the area, and this is by far the best. So let us get some fuel before we go. Oh, I don't believe you can do any transactions with the engine running. I've spawned us on the runway. Just get going here. All right, so the plane shut down, and now we can make a purchase. All right, so we want to buy fuel, and let's double check real quick, make sure we are at LTFL. Okay, we'll buy as much fuel as we can handle, which is probably about 2,500. I don't want to weigh us down too much or be too greedy. Let's just try buying 2,420 pounds and see where we are at. $200,420. Our weights and balances aren't changing. Well, I don't know if it's bugged or what. $800 worth of fuel. They sell fuel here, but it's super expensive. I wonder. All right, we should be okay. Well, let's just put it in there. Okay, we are good to go. I also will be. I should think about what I'm going to say before I open my mouth. Blah, blah, blah. I'm also going to possibly talk about Alexander and...
You're good to go. Contact the tower for clearance.
The connection to ancient aliens. Right? So maybe when we get down into Samaria, and another one of these series of world tours will be the Epic of Gilgamesh. All right, we're going to go to one location along this route. Not today, probably a couple of, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how far we can get. Probably tomorrow. Or the next day. Either way, we can talk about Gilgamesh at Baalbek. And I did find out Alexander did go there. They don't really talk about too much about him other than going to Egypt to get validated as a deity there.
Enjoy your personal flight, pilot. You can search for more jobs after you land.
Well, thank you. So we note as where we're going today, his first stop was Troy. He's already been told he's a deity, and he's from well, they're saying he's like the son of Zeus. But it seems like he, along with Gilgamesh, is going on a quest not only to take it to the Persians, who've been pushing up into Greek territory and taking over everything. He's going down to like liberate a lot of these Greek cities that have been taken over. And sadly, he's going to end up fighting a lot of Greek people that have already kind of intertwined with the Persian culture. All right, now that we're up in there, let me get us slowed down. Bring our propeller all the way back. We don't need it at high. We don't need to crash. Turn on the autopilot. Put it in nav mode. Switch over to GPS. Might as well do a direct to. Turn on nav mode again. And bring our conditioner back. Put the inertial separator in, Spock. Bring our conditioner down. And we should be okay at this altitude. So let's engage altitude hold. All right. So again, we're in Macedonia at the moment, looking around. They have lots and lots and lots and lots of horses. As I'm understanding, he's moving at least a minimum, and this is just his, well, 5,000 or more horses in this campaign. And I still, again, I think that's probably a low figure, but so, as I mentioned earlier, in the past, the Greeks had already come in and taken over everything. This is all Greek territory. Now, the Macedonians they're not really Greeks per se. I mean, barbarian Greeks, they were considered barbarians by the Greeks. But it was King Philip of Macedon, who was king of all these lands going that way over to Greece. He ended up saving their bacon because in the past, the Persians were coming up here and he ended up saving them, and then they kind of turned on him. So he started kicking all their butts for turning on him. And he basically conquered all of Greece, basically. And he became the king of Greece. And nobody really liked him because, oh, he's a barbarian. But he did it, right? So he's the most powerful dude. And here's his son, Alexander, taking over now. Oh, but anyway, the point I was trying to get to is that this area that we're going into right now, again, ancient. So a lot of ancient mythology and stories, including the Golden Fleece. Jason and the Argonauts, right? The Golden Fleece takes place here. Stories of love and tragedy. There's a story, again, in antiquity, a myth somewhere. Oops, my flaps are up. They're down. That'll help us save on fuel. Duh. And we're going awful fast. We need to conserve fuel, so just get us into a nice cruise. Pardon me if that music in the background is starting to get a little tiresome at the moment. I'll go ahead and switch it off. So one story I was reading earlier, and I don't know what time period it was, but again, it's like a Romeo and Juliet story where one of the guys on this side wanted to go see his girlfriend on the other side, and he swam it. He would swim it so that he could remain totally secretive about it. I would think he would have had a canoe, but they're saying he swam it back and forth. And then he ended up drowning when there was a storm coming or going. The Spartans came through here. Well, again, this is all Greek territory, so the Spartans have come through here. They owned a lot of stuff throughout here. And they controlled everything. So the conflict really is, again, in the far south from here is where Persia is at. Now, Persia's been around a long time, and maybe even longer than we think, because of the Sumerian tablet translations in the last 30, 50 years. And a lot of these ancient alien stories revolve around Sumeria and Persia. But as time went on and wars started happening between factions of Anunnaki and factions of humans being controlled by Anunnaki, if you believe in any of this, I'm just recounting what is said in tablets about potential visitors from another world being involved with our affairs here. So if it is to be believed, when the Anunnaki arrived, they set up shop in Africa, and they also set up shop way down south from here in Mesopotamia, which became Persia. All right, but they weren't the only ones. They had landing parties that went all over the place. And so each area was controlled by a major commander. And over time, like people do, they fight. Okay, we're making our turn here into this finger, the Hellespont. This is the Hellespont proper now that we're getting into. This whole body, Alexander and his troops traveled throughout here. I doubt they crossed any of this. They're like, hell no. So they all come through here. 100,000, 60,000 to 100,000 or more campaign army. You know, and all the people that are required to support the army itself. So there's a place along here too in modern times, in the World War I and World War II, called Gallipoli. Now, names around this place have confused me greatly, because names throughout time change a lot. So trying to find the names of these ancient cities and when they're named different things now has been kind of tricky. I did learn one really cool thing to do with Google Maps and Microsoft Flight Simulator, though, and that is to be able to go to Google Maps and find a location like Troy. That's interesting. And if you copy coordinates from Google Maps, you can paste them into Microsoft Flight Simulator when you're doing searching from the world map out there, or doing map grabbing. So trying to go along the points that they mention, the major points that they mention, I was going to Wikipedia and grabbing all the coordinates for those sites, and then I would go into the data category of Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's I don't know how to explain it. It's an area that you can download maps before you fly them. So normally, just through normal day operations, as you're flying around, Microsoft Flight Simulator is streaming the map data to you. Okay. But what I've done is I've gone in and told it, I want all the data before I fly it. So I want this area, this area, this area, this area, this area. So that it doesn't waste any power. Or it just has all the maps loaded here. And I'm able to display them the best that this machine can. Or the best that the maps are themselves. Some places, they don't want us to have really clear maps of their territory. Especially as we move into the this region of the Earth. They don't want us to have really detailed maps, or at the moment Microsoft hasn't got very, very detailed maps. And one of the things that's surprising me also right off the bat in moving around is the lack of airports throughout the Middle East as we move into what do they call it? They call it Sub-Asia, Asia Minor. So anyway, all this area in Asia Minor, I'm blown away at how few airports there are. In the United States, you can throw a stick and there's an airport. Usually in Europe, so far as we've been traveling around, same thing. Throw a stick, there's an airport. As I've moved south of here, trying to get all these maps, they're just few and far between. All right, so this was going to be, you can see these fingers sticking out up ahead. So these are probably the areas here. Gallipoli, I was going to get to that. In modern times, they call it Gallipoli, and there was an Australian movie about Australian soldiers having to come up and meet a horrible fate in this area. They were dug in and they were getting bombed, and so it's a Mel Gibson movie. Mel Gibson, when he was a youth, I do believe he is one of the, if not the lead role in the movie Gallipoli. And all I remember is he was a runner. He was a messenger. And so he had to constantly run back and forth along these areas of land here to deliver messages back and forth between the commanders. And just how tragic it was. So now that we're over here, to reiterate, yeah, Gallipoli. There it is, it just popped up. Okay, so this is where Alexander purchased or took or whatever, anything that could float. He commandeered every boat and anything that would float in this entire area. And he had everybody start making crosses across over there. And he knew that he was going to have to go that way. So he sent most of his troops to start setting up perimeters and doing all the military things that military people do all over in this area.
Gallipoli, also known as Gallipoli, is the name of a town and a district in Çanakkale province of the Marmara region, located in eastern Thrace in the European part of Turkey on the southern shore of the peninsula named after it on the Dardanelles Strait, 3 kilometers away from Lapski on the other shore. The Macedonian city of Callipolis was founded in the 5th century BC. It has a rich history as a naval base for various rulers. The Emperor Justinian I fortified Gallipoli and established important military warehouses for corn and wine there, of which some Byzantine ruins can still be seen. For the capture of Constantinople by the Latins in 1204, Gallipoli passed into the power of the Republic of Venice. In 1294 the Genoese defeated a Venetian force in the neighborhood. The Catalan Company, a body of Armagavars, under Roger de Flor, established themselves here in 1306, and after the death of their leader massacred almost all the citizens. They were vainly besieged by the allied troops of Venice and the Byzantine Empire, and withdrew in 1307, after dismantling the fortifications. After the city's defenses were damaged in an earthquake, it was conquered by Turks in 1354 and became the first stronghold of the Ottoman Empire in Europe. In 1854 the town was occupied by the Allied French and British armies during the Crimean War, who strengthened the defensive constructions from 1357. During the First World War the peninsula and the town were witness to a series of memorable battles, known as the Gallipoli Campaign. The town was occupied by the Greek army in 1920 to 1922, and finally returned to Turkey in 1923 under the Treaty of Lausanne.
Yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate. It doesn't look like that we have good photo maps either. So certain countries and certain areas, as you can probably understand, they don't want us having really detailed maps of the areas. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it at the moment. But you know, you can see a lot of these look very, very generic. But we know where stuff is. I mean, you know, it is at least placing buildings and everything where it is the best that it can do. All right, let me reset our drone camera here. And continue. Autopilot should be making us make a turn here to cross where they crossed. And then we're going to cut back over and continue on to where Alexander crossed. Man, that's a long way to swim. He did it all for the nookie. That must have been one fit gentleman. All the men at this point, excuse me, are Hercules compared to most men today. You know, I can't imagine what he is about to accomplish on foot, leading 100,000 or more people, and it's going to get bigger. He's going to be recruiting when he gets over to Troy, where we're headed. Kind of spoiling it now, but he's going to be doing a lot of recruiting, and all of his people moving through the area are going to be doing a lot of recruiting. Lots and lots and lots and lots. Because they know what Darius III is capable of. And throughout time, like the story of the 300, the Spartans, right? At that point, the Persian ruler Xerxes supposedly had 1 million or more. Now, this area here, too, again, either there, whatever areas look closest to each other, to the bodies of land. Xerxes, at one point, when he was making his way to go fight the Spartans, he got all the ships in the area, basically like Alexander did, and he lashed them all together and he made a bridge. So somewhere in here in time, Xerxes lashed all the ships together and made a bridge. Now the gods, if the story goes, as the story goes, the story with the god influence is the gods were so mad at the Persians because they started to deny that the gods existed, basically, and we're going to do what we want. And they weren't listening. So Xerxes says, I'm going to go to war with the Greeks. And the gods didn't want him to. He's like, I'm going to do it anyway. So then a messenger of the gods showed up and grabbed him by the neck and threatened and grabbed a hot poker of iron, and he was going to burn his eyeballs out. Gruesome, right? And he told him, just because you considered yourself so arrogant as to do it, we're going to make you go. I'm going to make you go to war with the Greeks. So you have no choice now. Oh yeah, what had happened is he said, we're going to make war on all of his family members and everybody else. And they're like, no. He's like, I'm going to do it anyway. So yeah, then the god messenger shows up, almost burns his eyes out with a hot poker, and tells him, no, you are going to war. So then he had to go back out there and tell his people, change my mind again, we are going to war. And if he didn't, the gods were just going to send the messenger down to put his eyeballs out and kill him. And the whole point was they were going to make him fail. So make no mistake about it. They told him, you're going to war, but you're going to lose. We're going to make you fail. So he built all these ships to get across here. And he made himself a ship highway. And at the peak moment where he had a whole bunch of troops and the thing loaded and people crossing, a storm happened. And he lost thousands of people. And the messenger laughed and laughed and laughed. And that's kind of the way it goes from him, for him after this. So everywhere he went and trying to do this, trying to go take Greece now, he was humiliated by the gods. Anyway, so they have the ability to muster 1 million people. Go back in here. I thought we were making a turn. So this didn't include the turn? I don't see it. Okay. Let's deviate then. Let me go ahead and come back over to here. We're supposed to be going to LTBH. We need to dump off all this fuel and make what money we can. 7 miles north. And we are clear to land. Altimeter 2992, wind calm, make straighten runway 22. Turn our autopilot off here. Put the prop full. Slow down. Whoops. That was a little bit heavy-handed there. I don't want to have you spoil your tea or coffee or whatever you're holding there. I want to try to keep it smooth. So I'm sorry I don't have the name of his Alexander's generals. I mean, I can open up Wiki and read things, but he's got and there's not a whole lot of them. I just don't have them all memorized yet. The only one that I really sticks out is Ptolemy, because he became one of the rulers of Egypt after Alexander died. All right, let's get some flaps. There's full flaps. So this is, again, staging areas in this area where Alexander's troops have all come over. And so I'm sure they were mucking about all over the place looking for recruits as Alexander kept going forward over to Troy. So they were all just told to hang out here and get ready for some fighting. I will have the information on exactly where we're at here in a moment. And a kale. That's what it's called now in modern times. Again, names change a lot around here. So we'll find out the ancient name for this place here in a moment. I've been blown away at all these places that I've heard about. You know, you hear... and then Odysseus went here, and Hercules went here, and Achilles went here. And, but, you know, unless you know where they're at, you don't know where they're at. And I've been finding places like that. Oh, really? That's Pergamon? I thought Pergamon was over here, or in my mind, somewhere in Greece, not over here. I didn't realize the Greeks had traveled this far out, really, to be honest, and how much they actually controlled in the ancient world. Massive, massive, massive areas.
Nice landing, pilot. Transporter from dispatch. Clear the runway and taxi to parking.
Now, you can cheat a little bit with NEOFLY. You don't actually have to go into taxi and parking, as long as you're just kind of off the main. Well, not being obnoxious, just get off the runway. And you can immediately get to doing your business. Shut down and do our transaction, and then we can quickly get out of here. Okay, so we bought a bunch of fuel at the place we were at, and we'll continue. It's a good place for a smoke break if you want. Get out and stretch. And we'll find the ancient name of this place here at Kenkale. Okay.
Let's go.
Uno momento, señorita. All right, so let's check our market. And LTBH is buying fuel. And so we're going to sell what fuel we have. 2,420 pounds. And we're only going to make 15,000. Well, it's better than nothing, right? All right, the next airport is across the way from Troy. Uh-oh. Hang on a second. It's resetting or doing something. See what I mean? There's like this airport down here. That's the only, you know, unless we want to cross over here or here. We are going back this way towards Biga for the GRANICUS. So let's see what they're buying. LTKA. LTKA. We could make an extra $269 by selling them beer. Oh, we're at LTBH. One moment. Same thing, selling beer. Okay, so we'll buy some beer. That's not beer. So something's going on with the weights over here. We were having weight problems earlier at the last place. Total weight and cargo is greater than the selected plane remaining payload. Okay. Go back over here. Weights. What? We have nothing. Here we go. So 2,000 pounds worth of beer. And we get over to Biga at GRANICUS. That's where his... if you can see this little map in the corner down here. It says Biga and LTKA. We're headed that way. And that's where he's going to run into the Persians and have his first major battle. Well, the first major one that they always talk about. And that sets the tone for what's going to happen. It's going to get weird. It's going to get very weird. So prop full for takeoff. I guess we are supposed to, by the book, I think you're supposed to have your condition all the way up. Inertial separator on, and what that does is as we're traveling down the runway, any big dirt particles that are picked up or any foreign matter that's heavy can get sucked into the engine when we're down close to the ground. This thing creates a little baffle system, so any bigger material it's blown out the exhaust. So you want this on when you're taking it off and coming in for a landing. All right. All right, get our propeller going.
You're good to go. Contact the tower for clearance.
You know what I didn't do? And I'll get going here in a moment, but I said everybody take a break here. Let's go out and do some things here, but I didn't actually give anybody time to take a break. So I'm gonna get the camera up high so you can see where we're gonna be headed. We're gonna be heading back over that way, and then going down to the tip of the Hellespont where Alexander crossed. So again, this is where all of his people started crossing, coming into this area, started staging. And he's going to go that away and then cross over to Troy. But what I didn't do is get myself a refresh of tea, and I did not take a little smoke break. And so let's do that right now. Okay. I'm not leaving the room. I've got a little teapot set up over here, make it all convenient. So, I'm not traveling far. Oh, please donate. I would really like to get the camping set for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I could really use help with donations if you have it. So it'll allow me to set up tents and chairs for us, and we can bring out our pet. I don't know if we can have more than one pet out there at a time. I haven't bought it. I don't know what it can do. But we can set up campsites when we land, and they're persistent. Meaning that we could go fly around and come back here, and our camp is still set up, and the objects react to the winds, the smoke, and the tent flaps, and things like that. But it's really cool that they give you like 15 pets, 15 dog types they said you can get. All of them sound cool to me. I'd like a cat, personally. A raccoon would be cool. They've got to give us different variations of pets. I love it. I love the idea. What we're missing still is fishing. Microsoft used to have a great fishing game early in when they would release a new version of Microsoft operating system. You could always count on really new good games coming out, and they used to have good fishing games, and they used to have really great golfing games. And with 2024, we've asked that possibly in the future that they bring those other titles back, and there's a way to unify these games. So I'm talking about camping now, but I don't want to just camp. I want to be able to go fishing, win some trophies. And then when we land in certain towns and flying around with other pilots, it's like, you guys want to go do the back nine over at this golf course over here? And we group together and we click and we're going, and we start golfing. The way to move between different kinds of experience. Also, exploration. For example, the Ancient Alien Sites pack, something like that. One of the things you're going to be disappointed with as we travel around here is they don't have really high detail maps of these places that we're going. So a lot of these ancient sites, in the map of the ground itself, you'll be able to see structure. We can possibly turn off these auto-generated buildings to get a better look at just the satellite mapping. We might see some things better. But unless these places are hand created, they're not going to be super detailed. So in the future with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, we're really hoping for people that are going to be creating greater maps, and the satellite maps are going to be better, and everything at a ground level will be worth it to be able to then walk around and go run around. Right the moment we get down to ground level, sometimes it's hit or miss. And sometimes things can look really, really bad. It wasn't meant to be seen from the ground. But everybody wants to go explore now, fly around and then explore. Okay. Again, the plan is here, if you're just tuning in, Alexander the Great is making his way from Macedonia. He came down across the way here on that other body of land across the water there. That's called the Hellespont in antiquity. And all of his troops have been shuttling across to get over here to start staging, while he continues south along the Hellespont, and he's going to cross into Troy, and that's where we're going here in a moment. I wanted to look up the ancient name of this place. Yeah, Concale. So what it says about this place here, formerly in English known as the Dardanelles, outdated, Greek, Romanized, Dardanella. It's a city and seaport in Turkey. Let's see if they got any earlier names other than Dardanelles. Prehistory and ancient history. First inhabitants of the area lived in the Biga Peninsula, and okay, we're going to a place called Biga, but they're calling this whole place the Biga Peninsula. Aeolian Greeks settled here in the 8th century BC and quickly established trading colonies. The region came under control of the Lydians in the 7th century BC and under control of the Persians in the 6th century. Aeolus fell under the control of the ancient Macedonian army after Alexander the Great defeated the Persians beside the Granicus River in the Battle of the Granicus on his way to Asia in 334, and that's what we'll be going to here later. The region came under government of the kingdom of Pergamon in the 2nd century. The western part of the Biga Peninsula, where ancient Troy is situated, used to be called Troas, and the road, the Troad. The important settlement of Alexandria, Troas, was an important free port and trade center in Roman times. And in the 2nd century AD, the region was attacked by Goths from Thrace, across the way where we came from. During the 7th and 8th centuries, Arabs hoping to attack Constantinople passed through the strait several times and reached as far as Cestus. Okay. The Dardanelles and... yeah. Every year, Concale is the finishing point for a demanding swim across the Dardanelles from Ecbatana. This event reproduces the swim taken by Lord Byron in 1810. Byron himself was reproducing Leander's legendary swim from Sestos to Abydos in the story of Hero and Leander. That's what I was telling you earlier. There was a story about a guy that would swim across the thing whenever to go be with his girlfriend, like a Romeo and Juliet story, and he ended up dying just getting caught in a storm making one of the crossings, but he would swim the thing. I'm sure his girlfriend was mighty happy. Think about how fit that gentleman was. And that's where I was going to say earlier that all the men from this period must have been like supermen. I mean, when we think about the pinnacle of man, their abilities to, you know, what they're going to do here in the next couple of days as we travel around, I can't even imagine doing it on foot. Oh my goodness. They had a lot of horses, but no, we have like 11,000 infantry at the moment, and he's recruiting. Okay. All right. Let's get back to our plane. And we're ready to go. Let's double check with air traffic control. We're departing north. Okay. All right. Off we go. Maybe. Here we go. I hear the turbos kicking in or whatever it is. Or not. Yes, come on. Go.
Have a nice flight. Just to remind you, we're not paying you for this one.
Correct. Okay, don't need the conditioner full. Don't need the prop full. Close the inertial separator. Hey, Jamie, how are you? Good to see you. So we're making our way back across. Alexander's troops have crossed over, and Alexander kept going. And now we're going along the way he went. And we're going to cross where he crossed. So we went all the way to the end of the Hellespont here. Turn this music off here. Do. So yeah, it was nice that Alexander and them had this point here. Made it a lot easier to cross. So our next destination is Troy. So there's been plenty of movies made about Troy. So back in the day, and I don't know everybody's names, but basically the story goes is that Helen of Troy, the king from here, the king and his daughter and their entourage, who lived just across the way, across the water over there on that corner and all through this region, they went and visited the Greeks, and they went to possibly Athens. And Paris, one of the sons of a king of Greece, King Agamemnon, maybe? He was smitten by Helen of Troy, and they fell in love. And so something like that. Did they kidnap her from there? I don't remember. Either way, they all end up over here. And then a big war breaks out because of it. Did he go and steal somebody's wife? Is that the way the story went? Maybe Helen was the king's wife and Paris from Troy. Maybe I got the story wrong. Yeah, so the king and his sons. That's right. Sorry. Been a long time history in my brain. So the king and his sons from here went to Greece and they stole the king's wife, Helen, and brought her down here to live with them. And the Greeks declared war and they sent heroes like Ajax, and I think Hercules was part of it, and Achilles down here to go fight. And then there's the story of the Trojan War and the Trojan horse that all takes place over here. And this is where Achilles died. And so Alexander the Great always wanted to be better than Achilles. He wanted to be more famous than Achilles. He wanted to be more famous than all of them. And so that is why Alexander the Great came over here and crossed here. Because he wanted to go to the shrine, the burial place that they had set up for Achilles over here at Troy. The thing that blows my mind is this was such a major player, city, kingdom in the area at the time. But when you look at other archaeological ruins, I mean, you can see walls and you can see everything. There's nothing left of Troy. It is understandable why it remained hidden for so long, because it just doesn't seem like it's here. For a kingdom that ruled so much and controlled so much, as we now get back into the cockpit. Oh, I don't know why. There we go. Okay. Kill the engine here. So as we see other places, you can see, you know, ruins of walls, and you can make out ancient cities, and, you know, but with Troy here, folks, it's, I mean, if you were to look just down there right now, it doesn't look like this was the place that was a super metropolis with humongous walls. And so we're going to come down to the port here, and then we'll cut in. So as I understand, in this area right where the port is at, this is where the Greeks started staging everything. Hey, thank you, Jamie. I really appreciate that. That's good for you, Dad. That's fine. Absolutely. Save your money, young man. You're too young to be donating. So good on you, Dad. So you can see how the beaches and everything start mellowing out a little bit, not such sheer cliff walls. You can see how this would be a good spot, maybe. Those are still pretty high cliff walls right there. But it seemed like a good spot all along here, these beaches. So this is where all the Greeks came and landed. Now, they talk about walls and towers. There's a lot of interesting things in the ground as we fly around, and you look at things. Here's a good spot. Good example. Like, there may have been stuff here in the past, but we don't know. They have not uncovered a lot of Troy. They said Troy is way bigger than we thought, and we've just uncovered a fraction. Okay. The other down. Okay. So it's always fun in Microsoft Flight Simulator to fly around and really, you know, look at the terrain and see what is scarred or still left over from the past. Or, you know, we don't know if this is newer or older, but, you know, and any time they're growing orchards or trees and things in orchards sometimes, I don't know if they're doing it to grow things or to hide things. There's plenty of times where people have grown trees over areas just to obscure and hide. But if they controlled everything, why wouldn't they have? Because Troy is still proper that way, and we'll get over there in a minute here. But why would they sit so far back from the coast when everybody else has solid coastal cities? Which makes no sense to me, but they're saying, it again, it's bigger than they thought. And I would think that it would have come all the way out to the coast. There's no such thing as late. And there won't be on this trip, that's for sure. I might end up doing 2 shows or 3 shows a day because this trip is going to take so long to do this route of Alexander. Now that I'm on it, I don't want to stop it. Now that I've realized I'm here in right where Alexander crossed over, I'm hot on recreating the route. Okay, so a lot of battles are taking place out here between the Greeks and the Trojans, right? And all those horrible stories, you know, everything's romanticized in time, but must have been horrible at the same time. So now, again, if we go back over to our plane, you see that marker out ahead of us in the terrain. That is where what they're saying is where the city of Troy was. And as I've been flying around, again, it's really difficult for me to tell where anything was. I mean, there's no real indication, strong indication of these super large walls that they talk about. And I also don't know if any of these roads that are out here are along where walls were. If they had, you know, different curtain walls out at different distances, which other ancient cities did. Okay. Yes, but you really want to donate. I appreciate that. No, he's a kid. He's a little kid. He doesn't need to be donating. He's too young to donate. It should be the other way around. We should be donating to children. Children shouldn't be donating to us. Let me pause right here and double check our map. Oop. Or do that. Yeah.
Troy was a city in the northwest of Asia Minor, southwest of the Çanakkale Strait, south of the mouth of the Dardanelles and northwest of Mount Idaho. The location in the present day is the Hill of Hisarlik and its immediate vicinity. In modern scholarly nomenclature, the ridge of Troy borders the plain of Troy, flat agricultural land, which conducts the lower Scamander River to the strait. Troy was the setting of the Trojan War described in the Greek epic cycle, in particular in the Iliad, one of the 2 epic poems attributed to Homer. After a destruction at the end of the Bronze Age, believed to represent the end of the Trojan War, and a period of abandonment or near abandonment during the subsequent Dark Age, the site acquired a new population of Greek speakers, who built a classical city that became, along with the rest of Anatolia, a part of the Persian Empire. The Troad was liberated by Alexander the Great, an admirer of Achilles, who he believed had the same type of glorious destiny. After the Roman conquest of this now Hellenistic Greek-speaking world, a new capital called Ilium was founded on the site in the reign of the Roman Emperor Augustus. It flourished until the establishment of Constantinople, became a bishopric, was abandoned, repopulated for a few centuries in the Byzantine era, was abandoned again, and is now a Latin Catholic titular see. Most recently, it has
Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.
Archaeological site. In the mid-19th century, the Calvert family, wealthy Levantine English settlers of the Troad, occupying a working farm a few miles from Hisarlik, purchased much of the hill in the belief that it contained the ruins of Troy. They were antiquarians. Two of the family, Frederick and especially the youngest, Frank, surveyed the Troad and conducted a number of trial excavations there. In 1865, Frank Calvert excavated trial trenches on the hill, discovering the Roman settlement. Realizing he did not have the funds for a full excavation, he attempted to recruit the British Museum, and was refused. A chance meeting with Calvert in Çanakkale and a visit to the site by Heinrich Schliemann, a wealthy German businessman and archaeologist, also looking for Troy, offered a second opportunity for funding. Schliemann had been at first skeptical about the identification of Hisarlik with Troy, but was persuaded by Calvert. As Schliemann was about to leave the area, Calvert wrote to him asking him to take over the entire excavation. Schliemann agreed. The Calverts, who made their money in the diplomatic service, expedited the acquisition of a Turkish firman. In 1868, Schliemann excavated an initial deep trench across the mound called today Schliemann's Trench. These excavations revealed several cities built in succession.
Okay, now, it might be my imagination, but as we're going to move on and start exploring some of these other cities, now they may or may not all be, what am I trying to say here? The construction of these ancient cities and ancient sites which we're going to be going to, one of the things that I've noticed is they build their walls along rivers, and they're crossing, so they use the rivers as natural moat. Okay? So as we're going to go down and look at other places, you're going to notice that these entranceways into these kingdoms, they're almost always using a river as a moat. And so down there, we see a river, and we see a crossing there. And who knows, in antiquity, but what I was saying earlier is that I believed that Troy extended way out to here, all the way to the coasts. Right? Why would they seat their kingdom and operations so far back when everybody else is right there, right at the edge? They build all the way, and all their major stuff is right over there on the coast. So what led Troy to build way back there? So I believe that they were in antiquity with the Spartans, and when they're dealing with the Greeks, that they possibly were out here. So now that I'm looking at this and I see these double lines here, I'm wondering if this was a wall at one point, or these were staging areas. But as I look at this river here, and then right beyond it, so you'd want a moat, and then you'd want an area that would be clean of whatever, so you could see everything. So they would have to cross the moat. But now look at this double set of roads here. And I'm wondering if in antiquity, this is where one of the curtain walls was. I don't know. This is just me guessing. But look at how clean those lines are all the way out there, like it would be a wall. Look at how even the lines are and how parallel they are all the way. Okay, so now we make our way along this major road in towards the next river. Or creek, or whatever you want to call it. They look like rivers. Anywhere, and I'm looking at where areas of trees are growing and how they planted the trees. And I wonder if a lot of tree structures are along wall areas, because they would also build, timber wall, as well as, brick and stone. And so that leads, and look at how parallel those lines are all. So I believe maybe this was another curtain, potentially a curtain wall out here. Now, as we get tighter and tighter to where right here, where we are now above the place where they're calling Troy proper. And you definitely see the river, and you see like a gate crossing area right below us there. Same with over here, where the plane is at. There's another, imagine a gate coming through here. And you can actually see a rise in the terrain in some of these places. But what I'm not seeing, and again, some of these are really nicely terraced. That's very nice. But what I'm not seeing are absolute proof of high walls anywhere. But over time, humans, we scavenge things. They've stripped everything in Egypt for all the stone to build things. So they probably did. They've stripped all the walls and started using them to build homes. But I'm so blown away that this place has been around since ancient times, and it's not a metropolis like today. I believe it extended way out there following this river. Anyway, this is where the whole Helen of Troy, just for one moment in time, the story about Helen of Troy and the fall of Troy and the Trojan horse and Hercules, Ajax, and Achilles fought. I can't remember the other son, Paris and I can't remember the other son's name. So in my mind, this is all still Troy, all of it, not just one little spot where maybe some palaces were, and who knows where actually they are. I don't. Let me bring our plane over here.
Troy was a city in the northwest of Asia Minor, southwest of the Çanakkale Strait, south of the mouth of the Dardanelles and northwest of Mount Idaho. The location in the present day is the Hill of Hisarlik and its immediate vicinity. In modern scholarly nomenclature, the ridge of Troy borders the plain of Troy, flat agricultural land, which conducts the lower Scamander River to the strait. Troy was the setting of the Trojan War described in the Greek epic cycle, in particular in the Iliad, one of the two epic poems attributed to Homer. After a destruction at the end of the Bronze Age, believed to represent the end of the Trojan War, and a period of abandonment or near abandonment during the subsequent Dark Age, the site acquired a new population of Greek speakers, who built a classical city that became, along with the rest of Anatolia, a part of the Persian Empire. The Troad was liberated by Alexander the Great, an admirer of Achilles, who he believed had the same type of glorious destiny. After the Roman conquest of this now Hellenistic Greek-speaking world, a new capital called Ilium was founded on the site in the reign of the Roman Emperor Augustus. It flourished until the establishment of Constantinople, became a bishopric, was abandoned, repopulated for a few centuries in the Byzantine era, was abandoned again, and is now a Latin Catholic titular see. Most recently, it has risen to prominence as an archaeological site. In the mid-19th century, the Calvert family, wealthy Levantine English settlers of the Troad, occupying a working farm a few miles from Hisarlik, purchased much of the hill in the belief that it contained the ruins of Troy. They were antiquarians. Two of the family, Frederick and especially the youngest, Frank, surveyed the Troad and conducted a number of trial excavations there. In 1865, Frank Calvert excavated trial trenches on the hill, discovering the Roman settlement. Realizing he did not have the funds for a full excavation,
Yeah, the Roman settlement, not the ancient
and was
Troy.
refused. A chance meeting with Calvert in Çanakkale and a visit to the site by Heinrich Schliemann, a wealthy German businessman and archaeologist, also.
Thank you too for stopping in today. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
For funding. Schliemann had been at first skeptical about the identification of Hisarlik with Troy, but was persuaded by Calvert. As Schliemann was about to leave the area, Calvert wrote to him asking him to take over the entire excavation. Schliemann agreed. The Calverts, who made their money in the diplomatic service, expedited the acquisition of a Turkish firman. In 1868, Schliemann excavated an initial deep trench across the mound called today Schliemann's Trench. These excavations revealed several cities built in succession.
Yeah, and if we're going on just what she said, she's saying that Schliemann found the Roman settlement. I can totally imagine what we're looking at down here as I get deeper and deeper into the terrain and looking at things. I can definitely imagine Roman city-states, a Roman city-style building. But again, that's just the Roman. Again, there's so many different layers to Troy, going backwards in time. There's like 9 layers of history, and nine city developments that are buried in the ground here. And again, you got to wonder over time, how much flooding and how much, I don't know how much they've stripped the area, but it's so weird to me that a place that has been around and in stories since history started being recorded, that this isn't a major metropolis today. That, and that's what's going to blow it. That is what's blowing my mind as I've been going around getting all the maps for this route, the routes we're going to travel. Just how little development there is out here. All right. Where are we at? 223. Okay. I'm going to go up in the air and we're going to take another break, and I'm just going to keep camera turned down onto the site of Troy to let your imaginations go wild for a little bit, and take a little break, maybe 5 minutes or so, and then we're going to head towards GRANICUS. Now that is the site of the first major battle. Now, I don't know about any little skirmishes or anything, but he's got 100,000 guys staging out here in front of us out there heading east, heading east out there. We have to go east from here, hook back up with all of his troops. And so he came over here again, and he hung out here for a while. He did a lot of recruiting, and he went south that way, which we should probably go that way when I get back before we head east, even though you can't see it in the ground. Specifically, he went to a spot south of here, which is the tomb of, or the sarcophagus of, Achilles. And he went and he sacrificed things, and he made prayers, and he made homage, and he had games. He held games out here. And again, he's probably doing lots of recruiting for heroes, right? This is the legendary spot where heroes lived and died. And so he's going to come out here, and he's looking also for his more information on deities and gods and confirmation that he is a deity. And it's going to get weirder and weirder and weirder for Alexander as he gets deeper and deeper and deeper into Egypt and Mesopotamia. It's going to get really weird for him. I almost feel sorry for him. You know, he's going to get the Alex Jones treatment. Or red-pilled, however you want to say it. It's going to happen to Alexander in a big way. All right, so let me turn this, and let's look towards the way we're going to go. And I'll just let you, sorry, got it right. I will let you just look at that for a little bit and ponder. Turn the camera down a little bit more. We don't need that much, and that way I can zoom in a little bit more for. Yeah, just let your mind wander on this for a little bit and imagine how, again, this used to be, there's been 9 cities built one on top of each other out here. Usually along rivers, there were curtain walls and entrances and gates, and lots of them. And then inner walls, and palaces, and again, staging areas for where you could have 100,000 or more people. And I'm going to get some tea and grab smoke and stretch for a minute and have fun with that. Okay, coming back. Popping up my tea, one moment. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. I was just away. Not going to get into the details. Too much information. Okay. So where we left off, Alexander the Great was visiting here in Troy. And down south a ways from where the Greeks staged is the sarcophagus burial. It's a mound they created, a burial mound, a tumulus or something like that. Where they buried Achilles or whatever they had set up for Achilles. And so Alexander the Great went over here and had a whole bunch of fun celebrating Achilles. You have a special way of putting it. All right, so in this area here, and I couldn't tell you exactly where. I want to say it's probably right here, just off our side here, but I don't know. I mean, there's no good markers to let us know exactly where this place is. But right in here, Yeah, way down here. You can see the port way up there. And reset our camera again. All right. So again, somewhere in here is the mound of Achilles. Could be that spot. I don't know. I mean, all we can do is look at the ground and try to figure out maybe where something is at. If we use Google Maps, we can get specific locations and get right over the spot, but go down a little bit of zoom in. So as we get closer, it doesn't really reveal too much more information about what's going on here. But there was something here. There was definitely something here at one point, or is something there, and we're just not seeing it very well. It's got it all flattened out. It doesn't know what to make of it. All this must have been something. Look at how strange the patterns are under the ground. There's stuff here. I would love to be running around any of these places that were just anywhere with metal detectors. And see this body of water and how there's kind of an artificial mound like that they had built up on one side. Wonder if they were doing their own defending. Who knows? There was definitely something here. See, these things look like areas where there would have been walls and stuff to me. Again, I can't imagine that they would seat all their operations so far back and not have major operations set up here all along the coast. There's definitely stuff here. Wow. A major road to, again, major something was there. Yeah, that splits at 45 degrees along those points. It's so fascinating to fly around and look at the Earth as, and again, I can't wait into the future when these maps become greater and greater and greater detail. Because you just know all kinds of things are going to start popping out, and they already pop out. Just depends on how you want to look at things. Sometimes I fly around and I get all bummed out. I'm like, it's so boring. It's so boring. And I got to remind myself, pay attention to what you're looking at here, because stuff's been going on since the beginning of time. All right. It's about time we started heading over to where Alexander started picking up. He's like, okay, I've had enough fun here. He's done a bunch of recruiting here, held some games, sacrificed things, said prayers to Achilles, and celebrated all the Greek heroes. And now it's time for business. Now we need to head east. And where he is going to engage the Persian army for the very first time. The king of Persia is not going to fight him in this battle. It's too far out, and he thinks it's a silly little incursion, a silly little battle up, at this end of the empire out on the frontiers with barbarians. And so the king himself isn't going to come and deal with the fight at all. He's just sending his army out here to deal with it. Fuck it. Okay. I need to find Biga on the map. And plot a course that way. Who knows which way it went. I know if you're playing Rome Total War, it gets really crazy up in here. Like the routes you can get to different places are really limited. Look at this map over here. There it is right there, the Battle of GRANICUS. Alright, so we need to look for that little horn part sticking out and come straight down from there. We are here. So that would probably be $40. All right, so let's get back into here. Change our heading to, well, yeah, about 45 degrees. And unpause. Hello. Oh, we're like super speeding. Had us in a dive there. All right, turn on the autopilot. Turn on heading mode. All right, we need to climb. Put the prop to full while we're climbing. All right, we need to sell this. We bought a bunch of beer, and we need to sell the beer. So we're going to LTKA. Might as well just do that and then figure out where to go next. So LTKA. Okay. And we'll turn on nav. All right, we're at 2,400 feet. Okay, I'm checking out the chat. I have a Discord. I'm not using it at the moment, not for this. And oh, you need OBS. That's what I'm using. There's no need for you to spam in my chat room. I know you're a young person and you're energetic and, you know, you want to be heard. There's no reason to type in something multiple times in the chat room. Don't do that to people. All right? One, don't do that to yourself. Okay? Don't embarrass yourself by spamming chat rooms. Now I've got a lot of stuff going on here and I'm trying to do my show, and I will get to the chat room and I will answer your questions. All right, I just told you what it is. So please don't spam chat rooms. Nobody will appreciate it. All right, let's climb a little higher. When you start broadcasting, you're not going to appreciate it if somebody does it to you. It's called Open Broadcaster Software. As I understand it, it's still a free download. And there's other tools you can use. It's not the only one out there. All right, but I don't know any of the other tools. I don't mess with any of the other ones. Okay, so that's what I'm using. And if you want to know how it works, everything you need to know about how Open Broadcaster works can be found on YouTube. There are a million videos of people explaining how to use OBS and create your own live streams, and how to do it on YouTube, how to create YouTube live streams. YouTube's got lots of help videos out there on how to create live streams. So there's a lot to it. It can be easy, but it can be very difficult at the same time. Sometimes it just works right, but like anything else, there's a lot of settings to it that you can mess with, and there's a lot to know. But just normally setting it up and just turning this on and connecting to that and connecting to that, usually it works pretty good. All right, again, out there, what you're looking at across that body of water, that's the Hellespont. That is where Alexander's troops came across, and he went down to Troy. And now he is connecting with all of his troops again, and they're all going to be traveling out east where we're headed. Maybe a little bit further, but there's one airport out here that we need to drop some beer off at. But either way, they had to control all of this. So you've got 60,000 or more men. And so chances are they were all spreading out and scouting and finding ways to go. And you got 60,000 to 100,000 troops and entourage all coming through here. And again, if you play Rome Total War, you know what a drag it is sometimes to get up into certain places around here. Usually got to go up north and go around, and it's tough terrain out here. It's gonna get worse as we go south that way. Pretty open sometimes that way. All gonna be some very interesting terrain. And again, and this is one of those places where I said in the modern world, everywhere you throw a stick, you'll find an airport. Out here, it's different. Everywhere you throw a stick, you'll find an ancient site. I mean, just look at the ground underneath us and let your mind go. Stuff has been going on here since BC, and these were all major areas in the past where the Greeks were establishing. Lots of little city-states along here. That used to be Greek that the Persians came up and took control of. So I mentioned at the start when we were crossing that Alexander's going to end up facing a lot of his own people. He's going to end up fighting a lot of his own people because they had already intertwined with the Persians. you know, and so they had no real allegiance to Greece. They were Greek people. Anyway, he got really mad at him, and he told him he was here to liberate, and a lot of places just went along with it. They just switched over. He cut all their taxes, which is nice. Of course, you're going to win hearts and minds when you don't need to pay any taxes to this guy anymore. And he returned all these city-states to democracy rule. If there was an oligarchy or other form of government in place, he would smash it and return everybody to democratic and republican ways. They always say democratic, but Greece, in its heyday, as with all great empires in their heyday, they're republics. Democracy is not the word you think it is. Democracy is not the highest form of government. Democracy usually leads to anarchy, which usually leads to collapse. Okay? If you say a nation is in its democracy, I mean, you're actually saying it's kind of in its decline. Because so far, what historians believe is the best for humankind, the best for the people, the best form of government that takes care of the people and does best, and there's lots of growth and prosperity, is when the government is republican. So in Greece, Solon, and when the Greek states were set up, they were republics. So it's like he returned them to democratic rule. Well, that's not really doing them that big of a favor. That's why people get mad today when everybody starts screaming, our democracy, our democracy, our democracy. And everybody's trying to tell them it's not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. That's why you guys are all so corrupt. And that's why you've all become corrupt. That's why everything is falling apart. That's why we have all these problems. It's because of your belief that democracy is more powerful than a republic. And everything is falling apart because of it. All right. Let's find out where we're at. We are 12 minutes and 21 seconds away, moving at 162 knots. Yeah, we are. Check our fuel, doing all right. All right. If you're just tuning in, we are starting the route of Alexander the Great. We've just crossed the Hellespont, went to Troy, and now we're going to Granicus, where he's going to be taking on the Persians for the very first time. What happened there? Hello? Okay. Lots and lots and lots of interesting terrain. Yeah, in Rome Total War, you usually go along that coastline there. This territory was all held by the Greeks and the Spartans in the past, I believe. Let's keep the camera looking that way a little bit towards. It's Hellespont. All right. Time for a sip of tea. So you get it on your laptop. It is an app. Yep. Again, I watch videos on it. Watch a couple of videos on it before you install it, and and see how it all comes together. How you create scenes and how you put your game capture in there, and how you add microphones and how you transition and blah 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 blah. You will have to have a pretty decent internet connection. I would imagine in the UK the internet connections are pretty darn good and very fast, so you probably won't have a problem. If you're not on a good internet, it just depends on what you want, what level of definition you want to stream at too. You know, how good is your graphics card? Probably, but again, it's gonna take up a lot of resources, and I don't know how strong Chromebooks are, but this is a gaming computer, right? So it's got a really hefty, well, at the time, this isn't like state of the art, but it's got a good mid-range video card in it. It's got a decent processor, and you need to have a lot of power to stream your games, unless you stream again at lower quality. So the first thing is I would try it, but if you don't get good results, chances are you might need a much better computer system. Yeah, I imagine it would work just fine on a mobile. Well, I don't know about like mobile, like a phone. I know like a Chromebook or a laptop is mobile. So yeah, possibly. I don't. Again, I'm using a desktop gaming PC. I don't know. I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm going to say maybe look for a video on it if somebody's using it and see how they're doing. I don't know. I have no point of reference. I don't do it. I don't know what your system is capable of. I don't know. Oh, we're not in Troy anymore. Fix this. I'll bet you that's it out there, that point that's sticking out. We've got to drop off our beer first at this airport over here. No, actually it could be right here. Actually, where this airport is, there's the river coming through. So this battle at GRANICUS took place across a river. they faced each other on either sides of the river. This is probably it then. Right up ahead here. See that river? So it wasn't a big deal. Alexander supposedly commented like, they're like, but there's a river dividing us. And he's like, look, man, we just crossed the Hellespont. We crossed all of that. Do you think I'm worried? Do you think we should be worried at all having to cross something like this? I mean, you can barely see the thing. And so I guess that was a big joke. Like, man, we're not afraid of crossing that. Okay, 3 minutes. Let's call it in. The wind is blowing from the south. No, from the west. All right, runway 2. Okay. Let's start slowing down here. And there's our landing pattern. We'll take it out of autopilot. Start a float down. Might as well put on your seatbelt at this point. Once we get down to the ground and we sell this beer, I'll break out the wiki on the Battle of GRANICUS. I'd really like to use the General's channel. I wonder if they would mind bringing up the Battle of GRANICUS and playing that for you. Probably safer if I just read it. But there's a channel on YouTube called like the Generals and Commanders channel, and they do a huge series on Alexander the Great, all of his major battles, and they use great animations, and so you really get a feel for what happened. All right, let me get rid of this. A little bit of stuttering.
The Battle of the Granicus in May 334 BC was the first of 3 major battles fought between Alexander the Great of Macedon and the Persian Achaemenid Empire. The battle took place on the road from Abydos to Dyscelium, at the crossing of the Granicus in the Troad region, which is now called the Bega River in Turkey. In the battle, Alexander defeated the field army of the Persian satraps of Asia Minor, which defended the river crossing. After this battle, the Persians were forced on the defensive in the cities that remained under their control in the region.
Low accounts, the Persians had 60 to 100,000 men, if I have that right. And that's probably low, but I don't know, you know, that's the best they think at this time. You know, as low as 40 to 60, as high as 100 or more. Usually, Alexander the Great was always outnumbered, but they had the better fighting force. They had better equipment. They had supposedly better training. But there's a lot we don't know about how they engaged in warfare, and we tend to simplify things. But he did have a superior cavalry, and, they were raised as horsemen.
The softest lifters.
Oh no, we broke some beer. Really? That looked soft. That looked like it was a soft landing to me.
And shut down your engine.
Oh man. I heard those beer bottles break. Let's just turn off our engine here. Oh, I forgot to pull our separator on landing. And our landing lights and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Should go through my checklist more often. Okay. Continue. And now we'll try to sell our beer here. Waiting for that. Let's look at this map. This is where we're at. Okay. We started out here, where my mouse is circling. Came down through the Hellespont here. This is where Alexander's guys crossed over here. Then he went to Troy. And now we've flown from Troy all the way over to here. It's kind of an optical illusion, or I guess what I'm getting at is when I look at maps, to me, when I look at like maps of the United States, this is like hundreds of miles, hundreds and hundreds of miles.
Ready for engine start.
The distances actually seem smaller than what I imagine them to be. So I'm kind of blown away at, like, oh, this is only 30 miles from there. This is only, 50 miles from here. And it seems like, looking at this map, that it'd be a lot farther than that. And it is not. Here's something over here, the Harpagian.
Harpagian was a town of the ancient Troad, or of Mysia mentioned by Thucydides. Its territory was called Harpagia or Harpagia. It lay between Priapus and Cyzicus, near the mouth of the river Granicus.
Priapus.
It belonged to the Delian League since it appears in tribute records of Athens between the years 448 7th and 429 8th BCE. Thucydides writes that 3 days after the Battle of Cynossema, during the Peloponnesian War, the Athenians captured 8 ships coming from Byzantium at Harpagian and Priapus. According to some myths, Ganymede was snatched from there.
Priapus and Ganymede, huh? Okay, cargo. What is the airport that we're at? LTKA. All right, so we're selling our beer. I think we bought it for 15,000 and we're selling it for 29. I think we're making 284 per item. Oh well, whatever. We made some more money. That's paid for our fuel, at least today, and activities. All right, we are going to go out and up and hover over the area. And ponder. All right, well, I might as well find out if I can play something and if they will take offense to it or not by doing this first episode. Let me go to this. No, not that. Or not this. What I'm trying to do is open up a YouTube window here. On another note, if you were a female and you're going to be parodied, it's still nice that Scarlett Johansson is the one doing the parodying. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, what I want is this here. Never. Turn down the volume. Okay, I want to try to open a window into something here. Awful goofily. All right. Now, there's a lot to it, and I really recommend checking this channel out. Kings and Generals. The Kings and Generals, and I'm sorry, now I'm subscribed. I've been watching this stuff all weekend. This channel is absolutely amazing, and if you want to learn about... I've just scratched the surface on all the battles that they're doing. This channel is amazing. And, if I can blow this up. You can see it here. And folks that run this channel, if you are getting you will be getting a message. I don't have the money right at the moment. I can't subscribe. I hope you don't mind me coming here to use this now that we're here and we're at the location site. I really want people to experience this battle from your point of view. I mean, I could read wiki and do that, but you guys do it so much better, and it makes the point so perfect. And so I hope you don't mind, and find it in your heart to hit share on the monetize, so that there's no conflict between our channels in any way. I would love to use your clips. I would love to use clips of your stuff as I continue this journey, trying to trace this route for the very first time. All right, so we'll find out now.
Army up the Hellespontine coast via Pacote and Lampascus before advancing eastwards. Arriving on the vast plain of which the Granicus was the standout feature, the Macedonian army was arrayed in a standard preparatory formation with two lines of phalangites in the center and the baggage train behind. Cavalry and light infantry screened the flanks and served as reconnaissance troops in front. In the late afternoon, Just before the Granicus, Alexander's scouts rode back and informed the impetuous king that a Persian army had finally been sighted on the far side. This news prompted Alexander to redeploy his forces in battle formation, a task he was swiftly able to accomplish due to the battle-ready marching order. However, when the Macedonian army got to the river, its generals quickly began having reservations about the prospect of immediate battle. Lined up atop the steep far bank were just over 10,000 Persian satrapal cavalry from across the empire, roughly twice Alexander's total. Arsames and Memnon of Rhodes led Cilician and Greek mercenary cavalry on the Achaemenids' left, flanked to the left by Arsaces and his Paphlagonian horse. Hyrcanians under Spithridates assaulted mounted troops in the center, and Bactrian cavalry to their flank. On the extreme right was Rheomithres, leading a contingent of mounted Median troops. As the Persians had ever since their empire's defeat in the 5th century Greco-Persian Wars, roughly 5,000 to 6,000 Greek mercenary hoplites had been raised to serve as the satrapal army's heavy infantry force. However, possibly because they had the same suspicion of loyalty as Alexander had with his Greeks, the satraps positioned this hired unit a mile or two behind the river, under the command of a Persian known as Omaris, too far away to take part in the main battle. The rock-hard center of Alexander's line were 6 1,500-strong brigades of the phalanx, led by Meleager, Philip, Amintas, Craterus, Conus, and Perdiccas. To the right of the phalanx were Nicanor's 3,000 Hypaspists, and then Philotas and Alexander himself at the forefront of 1,800 companion cavalry, several hundred mounted skirmishers, Agrianians, and some archers. 2,700 Thessalian, Thracian, and League cavalry were on the left under Parmenion. Following the army's deployment, Parmenion rode over to Alexander's position.
I want to say we're up in the 30 and 40,000 worth of troops there.
Morning.
Okay.
A hasty and most probably failed attack over such an obstacle as the Granicus now, he reasoned, would be a fatal blow to the entire expedition. However, if they waited until morning, the Persians, observing Macedonian superiority in infantry, might withdraw from their position during the night and allow an unopposed crossing. Our sources disagree on what the response was. However, most tell us that because of his Homeric desire to achieve heroic status through great deeds, or not wanting to buoy Persian morale by hesitating, Alexander disregarded Parmenion's cautionary advice and prepared the army for an immediate attack. Clad in magnificent armor on the right wing, he was easy for the enemy to see, and so a number of elite contingents under the satraps shifted to oppose Alexander's elite Hetairoi hammer, hoping to kill him and end the incursion. The Battle of the River Granicus finally began when the Macedonian king sent a mixed vanguard of prodromoi mounted skirmishers, Paeonian light cavalry, and a small unit of companions.
I just realized that this has music playing in the background, and I hope that doesn't cause a copyright error. Oh, man. I would hate to chop all this out, but if I have to, I have to. I will chop it out. For this live stream, you're going to be able to see it. For the playbacks, you might not be able to get to see any of this.
And his Agrianian favorites into the river, with the outward aim of securing the far bank. However, facing some of the best Achaemenid cavalry from the treacherous and slippery riverbed, they met predictably stiff resistance. Throwing spears and other pinpoint-accurate missile weapons rained down on the beleaguered advance force, causing terrible casualties from a distance. Some of these satrapal units descended to meet the Macedonian vanguard in melee combat in the riverbed itself, removing them from the advantageous higher bank. This attack gradually drew in even more regiments from the otherwise unengaged Persian line, disrupting the orderly formation on Orestes' left and shaping the battlefield to Alexander's requirements. With the enemy drawn out and exposed by the sacrifice of his vanguard, Alexander charged wholesale at the head of just under 2,000 companion cavalry, arrayed as it was in a wedge formation. galloping into the river obliquely to the right of the advanced force, and thereby meeting little resistance, the Hetairoi and their king were able to swing left and crash straight into the exposed Persian left wing in the riverbed, where most of the enemy leaders were fighting. This struggle against the best Achaemenid cavalry was, as Arrian relates, a cavalry battle with, as it were, infantry tactics. Horse against horse, man against man, locked together. The Macedonians did their utmost to thrust the enemy once and for all back from the riverbank and force him into open ground, while the Persians fought to prevent their landings and hurl their opponents back into the water. The companions' discipline, skill, and armament rapidly began to turn the tide. In particular, the Macedonians' efficient use of the cornel-wood cistern lance compared to the lighter spear of the Persian cavalry. However, despite this gradual forcing of the Granicus on the Persian left, Alexander, in the thick of the fighting, became the target of a concerted effort by the Persian leadership to kill him as the spear tip of his forces pushed their way onto the far bank. Accounts differ as to the nature of this clash, but Arrian informs us that at some point after Alexander's retinue penetrated the line, his spear snapped and he was forced to get a new one from a bodyguard. Isolated on the far bank with just a few companions, the king was quickly beset by several contingents of enemy cavalry. The leader of one, Darius III's son-in-law, Mithridates, was slain when Alexander wheeled around and drove his newly gotten spear into the Persian's face.
Yikes.
It was only a moment later that another Persian aristocrat, Rosecki's, confronted Alexander and lopped off a part of his helmet before himself being felled by the king's lance. While locked in mortal combat with Rosecki's, the latter's brother, Spithridates, satrap of Lydia, bore down on Alexander from behind and prepared to deliver the coup de grace. The Persian sword was about to fall and end the 22-year-old king's life. However, at the last possible moment, an officer known as Cletus the Black swept in and severed Spithridates' arm at the shoulder, saving Alexander the Great's life.
Tired of weak and boring lighters. Meet
All right. Commercial.
this new incredible.
Turn that off. Pretty exciting though, huh? I think. All right.
Having inflicted fearsome casualties and cut down many Persian commanders, the companions were getting the better of the Persian cavalry all across the right wing. Furthermore, the Agrianian skirmishers managed to breach the Persian formation's integrity and get in among the beleaguered enemy horsemen. As this hinge point on Alexander's right was being hotly contested, Parmenian's wing was charged by Rheomithres' Bactrians and Medes, but managed to resist the assault. In the center, 6 taxius of Phalangites and Hypaspists advanced inexorably across the Granicus, ineffectually showered by the Persians' missiles. When it became clear that the companions had punched straight through the Achaemenid left, the satrapal army broke in a wave of panic reverberating from Alexander's point of impact on the right all the way to Parmenion on the left, who had managed to hold the Persian cavalry there. A number of gallant Achaemenid units fought to the death in the river, while an equally great quantity, included among them Memnon of Rhodes, used their mounted mobility to escape the field and ride to Miletus. They were able to do so easily because Alexander, Parmenion, and the phalanx, which was now on the far bank as well, didn't give chase to them. Instead, the Macedonian cavalry wrapped around the unengaged and now woefully outnumbered Greek mercenaries on either side, encircling them while the phalanx lowered their sarissæ for another fight. We're left with no concrete reason as to why the satraps' hired infantry didn't march forward and join the main battle. It's entirely possible that Alexander's lightning assault and victory, which according to Professor Michael Thompson, was accomplished in less than an hour, took the Greeks by surprise and left them with no ample opportunity to react in time. Unfortunately, we can never know for sure, but what happened next is universally recounted. As if all of a sudden realizing their dire situation, and probably believing that a fellow Greek king wouldn't be too draconian, the mercenaries petitioned Alexander for mercy. Rather than granting it though, the Macedonian monarch assailed the Greeks en masse, butchering thousands of them in a hard-fought last stand. Plutarch claims that the king had been influenced more by anger than by reason. But one of those reasons might have been to make the brutal point: if you're a Greek mercenary, do not fight for Persian gold, or you will receive no mercy. Despite crushing the hired hoplites, Alexander's army took more casualties in this phase of the fighting than it had in the process of forcing across the river. In the future, the king would never again be so reckless and uncompromising in dealing with similar surrendered units, indicating just how much of a toll they inflicted. Whatever the case, about 3,000 were killed, and another 2,000 sent back to Macedonia in chains, where slave labor in the mines awaited them. Between 1,000 and 2,500 of the 10,000 Persian cavalry had also fallen in the battle, together with almost a dozen named higher officers and governors. On the victorious Macedonian side, casualty totals were far lower. Taking into account the possibility of propaganda to glorify the victors, our sources state that 100 to 120 cavalry were lost and only 30 phalangites. However disputable these figures are, the strategic result was not. All of Asia Minor now lay open for the taking. After visiting the wounded and giving an honorable burial both to his own men and the fallen enemy warriors, Alexander appointed his own replacement satrap for Hellespontine Phrygia, instructed him to maintain the general status quo, and then moved south. Zelaia was taken and pardoned, while Parmenion was sent with a flying column to take over nearby Dascylium, which had been abandoned by its Persian garrison. Then, about 8 miles short of Sardis, the garrison commander and many other leading figures came to meet the Macedonians in order to surrender the fortress, treasury, and the city in its entirety to Alexander. From initial insecurity and near collapse after Philip's death in 336, Alexander had managed, in just 2 years, to crush an Achaemenid army in open battle and occupy one of the greatest capitals of the ancient Near East. But that was just the first step. Far to the east, in the heart of his massive empire, Darius III began raising an equally massive royal force to confront the invading Macedonian king himself. As Alexander considered his first victory from a newly dedicated shrine of Zeus at the Sardis Acropolis, looking out onto the great continent beyond, he had to have known that the real challenge was about to begin. Once again, thanks to Hunting Clash for sponsoring this video. Download this awesome hunting game via the link in the description. More video.
Okay. Well, kings and generals, it's up to you. I would really like to be able to show people, stuff like this from your channel as I'm doing this route of Alexander. Okay, so today we are at Granicus now. That's where this took place. Okay, we're looking at from there's the Hellespont side over here, out there. Over there. Okay. So he came from over there, his troops crossed way over there, and he went to Troy, and then everybody came over here. Alexander's troops were on this side of the river. Let's get this drone moving a little bit faster. It's gonna take forever. Camera. External. Oh, showcase. Drone speed. Maximum warp. Pennant. Yeah, that's much better. All right, so Alexander and all of his men were on this side of the river. And I don't know exactly where. But here, I mean, we're in the spot. Going to that method where we're talking about, well, in this day and age, you can't see anything, but the ground is still very telling, right? It seems like they didn't stage long for this one. And again, it was over in an hour, but they don't talk about how long they staged first. It seems that as soon as they got there, they just were gung-ho to go. But sometimes looking at the ground, you can get an idea of where people put battlements and put up defenses. But if there were none, then yeah, this is where it all happened. Alexander crossed over here, and they started pushing that way. And then he swept in. He's going to use that tactic over and over again because it worked so well. His troops on the right side, with him leading, they're usually able to sneak up on the flank side, the right flank here, and end up coming around or busting through. And what they're going to do is use that tactic later against Darius. Once the king is on the field, that same kind of maneuver to immediately get past all of his troops as fast as possible and hit the king. Try to hit the king. And so that's what he did here. He ended up knocking all those forces on this side out and then doubling back and doing the hammer and anvil. Right? So the hammer and anvil tactic is your troops are holding a line, and they're holding a line of troops, and you get in behind them, and your troops are the anvil and you're the hammer. So you come in behind them and you hit all their troops from behind. Again, they were using, as I understand, a lot better armor. They were using those long spear that he mentioned, and I've already forgotten the name. He mentions it in that bit we just heard, the exact name of the long spear. And the sad thing about that story is when Alexander did cross, possibly lost a lot of horses. If the numbers are right, then it seems like they didn't, but it was a melee combat of horsemen. Okay, so tomorrow we need to head out from here. I really want to get that camping kit. Let me take us to the ground and see if we can land and not crash in this thing. There looks like a nice spot over there. There looks like a decent spot where we could land. That one looks more smooth. That area right here looks way more smooth than that, but what I want to do is put us on the ground, and I really want that camping kit. I know it's silly, but so what I'm talking about is they offer a camping kit. I don't know my background music here. Okay. And you can lay out tents and your camping gear, and you can bring out your pet, a dog, I guess. Try there's this airport here, where we landed to get our beer. Oh, we're landed. So excited watching all that stuff. So yeah, there's a camping kit you can get, and set out your tents and set out your cook gear and let your pets out, and so yeah, why don't you if you are inclined to donate, I would appreciate it, and we'll get that camping pack and add it to the simulator. And I guess it responds to wind. It's not, and it's also it's persistent, meaning that if we were to drop our camp stuff here and then go flying around and come back here, it and our pets would still be here. It stays persistent in the flying simulator world. So we'll pick it up here tomorrow, and we'll do just what they said. We will start heading south towards, they call it Magnesia. But either way, the next big battle is going to be, I believe, it's a place called Miletus. And then the next one after that is a big battle at a place called Halicarnassus. Then he's going to go after the gold of Midas. Did you ever hear the story of King Midas growing up, or anything about King Midas? What we've all been taught is that whatever King Midas touched turned to gold. Okay, King Midas lives around here. But that's not what they talk about. They talk about a famous knot. You know, like you tie a knot in your shoelaces, a knot, or in rope, whatever. You make a knot. Instead of focusing on King Midas and the gold that Alexander's going after, they talk about a knot. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. Let me show you this camping thing. Let me make sure. Are we saved? I think we're saved. I think we'll get credit for our time. So if you've noticed that there's like seemingly a big cut in the live stream and there's this big empty area and I'm talking about stuff that you have no idea, you didn't see anything. I had a problem with the Kings and Generals channel and I had to chop out that segment either for a music or they just didn't want me to use any of their stuff. So hopefully they don't mind me using their stuff, and hopefully whatever bit of music was playing while we were watching that doesn't cause any copyright problems either. Okay, so to the marketplace, and then type in camp or camping. Okay, there's one set you can get, and I haven't really read on that one. It's cheaper. Bush Plane Camp Out Airstrip. But I'm talking about this one here, the Camp Out Utility. It's got a rating of 4.9 stars out of 5, $14.99 USD. So I need $14.99. Okay. An add-on for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 that allows you to take camping equipment on board any aircraft. Set up camp anywhere in the world you want to call home for a night or a week. It's not scenery. It's live and dynamic object placement and management, all via an in-sim menu system. This unique add-on provides an opportunity to combine the serenity and beauty of flying with the peaceful vibes of camping. When you find that special spot in the world you want to make your own, you'll know exactly why flying is optional. Highlights: does not require 42 Freedom Fox / Fox 2, whatever that is. Works with any aircraft, anywhere. Built following current MSFS SDK standards, optimized for Xbox controller use. Pack unpack button for quick management of items in proximity. Sets allow you to create and save custom campouts per aircraft. Worldwide object persistence. Mention that. This is a weird one. Eco credit system to manage in-sim littering. What? Intelligent purging systems to protect sim performance. In-sim management of complete product features. Over a dozen placeable objects. Variations, options when applicable. Includes Best Friend DLC pack with over 17 popular dog breeds to choose from. No cats at the moment. No raccoons. No birds. Includes Winter DLC pack with over a dozen new objects for creating snowy scenes. I'm going to need that when we go back home to Colorado. Wind reactive objects include tents, portable windsock, and smoke canisters. Additional themed objects to be released. Get my raccoon. Oddly satisfying sounds when placing objects. Or they're going to add, I'm going back to the top one, additional themed. Maybe some coffee. And a fishing pole. A fishing pole. Let me do the Joe Biden thing and get really close to the microphone. A fishing pole. Come on, man. Come on, man. We need a fishing pole. All the satisfying sounds when placing objects. Custom sounds for key objects such as campfires. Share system allows you to share campouts with friends. That's right. I can camp out with you. So you can join me on these flights if you want, if you're inclined at all. And this is the camp system for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So yeah, if we do a multiplayer and we're flying around together, at the end of our day, we can... I know it sounds so silly. It sounds so silly, but this is... Sorry. But at the same time, it sounds like so much fun. We can sim in the simulator. Kinda. But there's some chairs. And there's the tents. Oh, there's a cook set. There's some cast iron skillets over a metal cook unit. There's a coffee pot. Amen. There's a cooler. Two of the fancy chairs. So we got like the 1970s lawn chairs over on the left side. On the right side, we got the two of the more stylish ones, usually with a drink holder in them. Two nice little pup tents. Hey, the dogs. I think I would like that one, the Jack Russell Terrier. British Bulldog. Some sneakers outside the tent. There's one of the snowy scenes. Nice campfire. That's the campfire with the cook set. It looks like you can move things because it doesn't, I don't know, either maybe it's just this angle. It doesn't look like all the cast iron objects are out. Inside the tent, huh? All right, we're back to that. So your donations are going to help me get that. And then we'll be flying and camping with style. Hey, Jamie, thank you for your donation today. I really appreciate that. And thank you to Henning for tuning in. We'll check out what he's got going on. He uploaded a new video today to his site, so we're going to have to check that out and get that posted to social media. 3:49 in the afternoon here. Okay. So this has been episode number 136 of the Adventures of Skydude. Okay, I'm going to do another live stream starting at, I want to say 5 to 6 p.m. What is it now? It's going to be 4. So 6 p.m. So 2 hours, basically 2 hours from now. And I made a post on it on my channel today, this morning, letting you know that these flights are going to take so long. I'd like to get it all done in a week. But some of these flights could be hours long as we move around. Okay, so I'm going to do at least 2 live streams. And possibly 3 every day this week. So, and times are subject to change on these extra ones because the real world happens. I will always start the daily one at its normal time of 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and then 6 o'clock at the moment for the second show. Possibly 9 or 10 for a third show. I can't go over 4 hours on these live streams, or then I am unable to edit them. So let that be a lesson to you as well. If you get all gung-ho and you do a live stream marathon, after 4 hours or so of live streaming, you can no longer go into YouTube and edit your live streams. So if you have to cut things out or, move things around, blah, blah, blah. So try not to do over 4 hours. If it doesn't matter to you, then it doesn't matter. Okay, so I was going to say see you tomorrow, but no. Got to remind myself, go in, do the things I got to take care of inside the house today. and get things taken care of and get out here for the next and get ready to create some more artwork for the next leg, which is going to be to, I don't know, see how far we can make it to the Midas gold or the knot. Either way, I'll be back in a couple of hours to keep going. Let's get that camping kit. I know you're thinking, what? It's only $14, man. Get it. Yeah, I'm tempted.